In the last section, we discussed nesting elements within one another, and also the difference between block and inline elements. In this video, we'll be looking at elements that do not follow the patterns of an opening tag, the content, and a closing tag. These elements consist of a single tag only, which is typically used to insert or embed something in the document. We've already used one such tag when we linked up our style.css file with our index.html file. Another example that is very commonly used is the image element. We will create an image element nested within our div, which we've given the class name of container. An image element is specified with img, and we can include the src attribute, which can take a URL specifying a image or a file location. In this case, I'm going to open a browser and go to this URL. I'll include a link to this URL in the description so you don't have to type it out, but this is the image we'll be targeting. So if you type the URL into the browser to make sure we have access to the image, I'll just Control-C to copy this, go back to our code and insert it as the source. And then I'm just going to save this, and again in our browser, just open up our index.html file. Now we do have the image here. This is because I believe I've put it in the wrong section. What we need to do is move the entire image tag. Again, Control-C, delete that, and then outside of the container div, Control-V and save. Refresh, and that's better. So just to recap, we specified that we want an image element by typing img, and then we specified the source for the image. And unlike, for example, our h1 tag, which requires an opening tag, the content, and the closing tag, the image element or the image tag does not require a closing tag, such as that. If we go to the documents by typing empty elements into Google, empty elements in HTML, we'll go to the developer.mozilla.org documentation, and you can see here a list of empty elements that we can use, such as area base, break, column, embed. The main takeaway from this is that not all elements follow the opening tag, the content, and the closing tag pattern. Some elements are not meant to nest other elements within them, and these are known as closing tags. From here, I want to introduce some more styling properties that we'll be applying to our new image that we are displaying. The image is currently all the way to the left. What we want to achieve is to push the image somewhere in the center. I'll inspect this, under elements, we can see our image is not nested within anything other than our body. So the first thing we'll want to do is nest our image in another div. We'll give this a class name of image container. Just reformat this and include the closing tag. I'll save this, refresh. Now our image is nested within our div with the class name of image container, which looks to be covering 100% of the view width, judging by the blue highlight you can see. We'll be using the text align property to push the image into the center. The text align CSS property sets the horizontal alignment of the content inside a block element or a table cell box. This means it works like vertical align but in a horizontal direction. Back to our code, we need to go to our styles.css and we want to target the image container rather than the image. So we've got a class which is indicated by a full stop, image container, curly braces, and we want to set the text align. We've got centered left, justify right, and inherit. We'll set it to center. We'll save this, refresh, and now we have aligned our, let's call it text for the sake of argument, within the center of the image container div, which is 100% of the view width. Again, the image isn't text, but it is content within the image container, so it works. From here, I want to give our image container a bit of additional styling, such as height and a background color. So if we go back to our CSS, go back to our image-container, we'll type height, make this 400 pixels for now. That's pushed our previous content down a little, and we can see that the container has grown larger. I won't change the width for now, but the background color, I'm going to set to powder blue. This will just help us display the image position a bit more clearly. Now, as we have our image nested within the class of image-container, we can actually target this image and assign CSS properties to it by first targeting the class of image container, and with a greater than sign. In this case, it's more of a arrow, I guess, in order to target a nested image. We'll type image, which specifies all image tags within that element with that class name. Another CSS property is margin, which will add a margin around whatever element we are targeting. So I'll just add a basic margin for now of 100 pixels. Save that. Refresh. And as you can see, we've got a margin surrounding our image. In the display of our styles, we can see we've got a guide here that shows padding, border, and margin. As we don't have padding or border yet, nothing's displayed when we hover over it. But when we hover over margin, it gives us the value of our current margin, which was 100. And it also highlights that particular property that we've assigned to it within the browser. We'll go back to our CSS. I just want to adjust the values. We've assigned margin, which will add a margin the same value all the way around the element that we've assigned it to. But we can also specify if we just want to change the top margin, the right, the bottom, or the left. And to do that, we type, for instance, the top, a dash, and then top, so margin dash top. And I'm going to assign this a value of 80 pixels. Save this. Refresh, and back in our styles, we see we've got a margin from the top pushing down 80 pixels with none on the left, the right, or the bottom. So similarly to margin top, we can specify margin bottom, which probably won't make much of a difference given our current circumstances. We can specify margin left, and margin right. I'm just going to assign this 200 pixels to see what happens. I'll save this. Refresh. Got a margin of 80 up top, 200 pixels to the right, which is pushing it more towards the left, 30 pixels for the bottom, which isn't having much effect, and then we've still got a 20 pixel left margin, which you can see highlighted in the browser. I'm going to set the left and right margins an equal amount, which should recenter our image. So just to recap, we've discussed empty elements, which are elements that don't require a closing tag or content nested within them, such as the image element and the link element. We've discussed where we can find other empty elements within our documentation. We've added an image element, which is a empty element, and we've assigned it a source that we've taken directly from a online URL. In a moment, we'll quickly go over how we can access images within our own project rather than having to go to the internet to find an image and display it. We've also looked at a few additional CSS attributes that we've assigned to both a new div we've created in order to center our image, and also looked at margins for better positioning of our image. From here, I just want to quickly show you how, rather than taking an image from the internet, we can actually take images from within our project itself. So I'm going to right click on our main project file and create a new folder. Call this images, and we'll require an image to place within our new folder. Feel free to use whatever image you wish. I'm just going to go to Google and type placeholder images. Go to placeholder.com, and I'll just right click and save this image. In Atom, I can right click on our new folder, show in Explorer, copy that path, and then just paste that path to redirect ourselves to our project file, and then I'll save the image. I'll open this, and we now have the image we just downloaded. Now it's simply a matter of replacing the URL that we have in the source with the file directory in relation to our index.html file. So our image.html file is within our main project folder, as is the images folder. So to specify the same directory as the index.html, we can type // then we need to specify the folder that our image is in, images, and then another / and then we need to specify the name of the image itself. I'll save this, go back to our browser, refresh, and now I have that displayed. So that's how you can use your own images that are within your project and display them, rather than having to go to a URL online to gather an image and then display it. What I'm going to do is just put that back as normal to the original URL we are using. Save that and just make sure that's working. And I'll leave it like that for now. So I'll leave this tutorial there. We've covered empty elements, the image tag, and some new CSS positioning styles. In our next section, we'll be looking at anchor tags in order for us to not just create a single web page, but to create a website by linking pages together, both within your project and also linking other websites from across the web to your project.